world did Shawn get off from all accountability again? I don't understand. So let's rewind. Hi guys, welcome back for Married at First Sight Season 20 Episode 7. We start off with Adam and Marissa in their kitchen. Adam is making grilled cheese and tomato soup, and Marissa asks him, do you think we would actually end up married if we had started dating in college? Adam says, yeah, I've wanted to get married since I was 18, which I still don't really buy. And there's something also about their relationship that I'm not buying. I don't know if it's that it seems so surface level or exactly what it is, but it just doesn't seem real in some type of way. It's just very laughy, very jokey, which is fine, and it's very fun, which is fine. But I need a little bit more depth there, and I don't know if we're not being shown it or if there just isn't any. So Adam does pour her a glass of wine. He seems more than happy to do it, and she's like, I always get nervous drinking around you because you don't drink, and it's just I've never drank around somebody who doesn't drink before. And he seems to have no issue with her drinking, which now I'm like, so were you just really leaping to conclusions on the wedding day when you got that bottle? Because you don't seem as strict about your non-alcohol situation as you seemed on the first episode. And so that also makes me think, are we not seeing the true Adam? Are we not seeing the true Marissa? Like, I feel like we're not seeing the true version of either of them or maybe even both of them together. But they seem really happy. I mean, good for them, I guess. So the couples are getting ready for their first group dinner where we have a clip of Tori and Felipe. Tori finally fills us in on why she ended up sleeping on the couch the night before. And she said that there was nothing wrong with Felipe, nothing wrong with their intimacy, but she is an avoidant person. Therefore, it was just a lot for her and she just felt like she needed to run. So she went to the couch, but she's working on it. I guess I'm glad that everything's okay. They seem to be really compatible. I would actually say that out of the couples so far at this point, I think that they are the most compatible out of everybody, which I didn't see coming. Like, on paper, I don't think they're that compatible, but in actuality, it seems like it's really working out for the two of them, which I do love. I would love to come out of this season with some actual real couples who are in love with each other. That would be great because we all know these castings are truly reality TV castings and not matchmaking casting. So we catch up with Courtney and Nick, and my God, there's so much to unpack there. So first off, Nick is talking to her and they're talking about the physical connection, and he's like, to be fair, I'm fine with where we're at. We've only known each other a week. And I'm so glad he said that because that is the first time any of the men on this season have acknowledged it has not been that long that we've known each other, therefore the expectation for physical stuff should not be that high. You know what I mean? But then he asked her about like her past relationships. He's like, you've never told me anything about them. Like, and I come to the conclusion based on watching this that Courtney is not very good at being vulnerable. And by that I mean she gets this like wall and she gets so defensive as soon as you try and go like even just a layer deeper, 2 layers deeper about anything. If she is hitting on a subject that is not like the most comfortable subject for her to talk about, she gets either really defensive or she starts like joking and trying to laugh it off. And it's like, Courtney, you have to learn to be vulnerable. You have to learn to sit in these uncomfortable conversations if you want to grow with a person. Like Nick is your husband. If you really want this to work, then you have to be able to open up to him, to talk to him, and let him know about your past relationships. She reveals that she's been cheated on in the past, and it was in a very roundabout way, though, and Nick was like, to be clear, have you been cheated on? And she was like, yeah, I thought I told you that. You have not revealed that to him. He did not know. And she said that she just let it happen because she was whipped and she was kind of just like, I just want to be your main one. Like, I don't care if you play in my face. Like, I just want to be your main one. And it's like, that's sad, and she is like, love is blind. But I also think to that point, to the point of being like, as long as you pick me, like, I'm fine, whatever you do. No, you didn't have enough self-respect for yourself to walk away. Love will make you do a lot of things. It will. But your self-respect, if it is high enough, it will trump that. And you will be like, absolutely not. I'm not tolerating this. I might love you to death, but I'm not going to tolerate being treated less than I deserve, And so it's just like, I need Courtney to do a lot of healing. It seems like she has a lot of healing that she needs to do. She talks about how like the physical aspect in her past relationships wasn't very good. She doesn't elaborate though. I don't know what that means. And she's like, it's just embarrassing. What is embarrassing about that? Everybody has most people have past relationships, right? And obviously they're past because something in them didn't work. It's not embarrassing that something about the relationship didn't work. And I don't think that she realizes that. And I think that that's also the perfectionism in her, is that she's embarrassed whenever something isn't perfect, whenever something fails. And it's just like, Courtney, no, that's not a flaw on you. But then Nick asked her a question, which I am glad that he asked because it was a question that I also had, which is, are you actually ready to be in a romantic relationship? And she's like, yeah, of course. I wouldn't be here if I wasn't. And it's like, you say that, but you're not giving signs of someone who is actually ready. Like, I really feel like you have so much more healing that you need to do from your past relationships and whatever upbringing it is that you have, that, like, I don't know if you're actually ready for this type of commitment. You're not even ready to open yourself up to somebody. And it's just like, you can't have a successful relationship, a successful marriage, if you're unwilling to open yourself up. So as the couples are arriving to the group dinner, we learn that Dr. Paul and Dr. Lisa are actually hiding and watching and observing this entire group dinner situation. All of the couples arrive together hand in hand except for Shawn and Nikki. We also learn that Shawn, Nikki, Beljolie, and Mecca had a double date the night prior, and that ended in an argument between Shawn and Nikki, to no one's surprise. Everyone's outfits looked fabulous, except for Adam. I don't know what in the world he was wearing. He looked like he was going on vacation in like this very bright tropical two-piece outfit and this hat that had feathers on it. And Adam is just one person who really likes attention. That's what I'm gathering. I already knew he liked attention because he talks a lot. He likes to hear his own voice. But this outfit really proved it. So at the dinner table, they're going couple by couple, talking about how it's going in their relationships and whatnot. We start off with Adam and Marissa, where they say they're just vibing. They're just vibing. Everything is silly, goofy fun over there. And they do get asked, like, okay, so have you guys talked about the future, like deep conversations? And they're like, deep conversations will come eventually, but we really just like keeping things light and fun. And it's like, okay, that's fun, but that's not sustainable. You know what I mean? And so when they're asked about the future and what things are going to look like in 5 years for them, they're like, we really like to just think about the now. And I understand that, like, some people don't want to think about the future. That's fair. That's fair. But when you're talking about being married to someone, you need to have the conversations about what do the next 3 years, 5 years, 10 years look like in your mind. Because if you're not aligned on that, that is a problem. Like, if one person is thinking they're going to have kids and the other person's like, oh, absolutely no kids, you guys need to be having that conversation. And that comes with conversations about the future. And I just don't know if they're taking this seriously. And part of me is like, are you guys here in hopes of trying to become influencers? And even when Marissa is pressed, like, okay, so what is it that you love about Adam other than that he's like silly, goofy fun? And she's just like, well, and like around people, he is so much fun. He's so funny. And then behind closed doors, he's like really genuine. And it's like, that's not a good answer. You obviously don't really know anything about him if you can't say anything other than that for why you like a thing for what you love about him. I don't see it lasting. I don't think they have anything other than a physical connection, to be completely honest with you. Courtney does say that in her confessional with Nick, she does say that she thinks Adam is the hottest one out of the whole group. I would very much disagree. Next up to talk about what's going on in their relationship are Courtney and Nick. It starts with Nick telling Adam and Marissa that they have a lot of fun in their relationship, and he feels that he and Courtney could use a lot more of that in their relationship. And then Courtney goes into the story about when Nick was cuddling her on the honeymoon and she was like looking at her watch, waiting for 6 o'clock to roll around so she could get out of the bed. And I'm like, why would you say that? Like, even if that's true, why would you say that about him in front of all these people? And one thing is, I think that Courtney lacks some awareness. I don't think that she knows how to necessarily maneuver in a relationship. And there is a way that you do move when you are in a relationship. When you're in front of other people, you protect them. You protect their feelings. You protect the way that they are being presented. And I feel like she did not do that in this case. She then goes on to say that Nick does so much for her behind closed doors, and she really does feel like he likes her, but she does not want to hurt him because she does care about him. And I think that she doesn't realize that she is hurting him. Just by the way that she moves in this relationship, she is hurting him. Nick then says some really nice things about Courtney and gets emotional when talking about her. I think that there is a lot of care there, but I just don't see them being compatible. Courtney elaborates about how she's a slow burn and how in her past relationship with her first boyfriend, her first love, she only had sex with him because she thought that that would make him like her. And I'm like, I wonder if that is the negative part of physical intimacy that you were talking about earlier, where you said that that was embarrassing. I don't think it's embarrassing. I think it's a learning moment. Courtney then goes on this weird tangent where she says that she feels like the men are not as confident as the women, which Marissa then clarifies and she's like, I think you're meaning the word vulnerable. And I think that that's the word that she meant also, because I don't know that they lack confidence. If anything, there might be too much confidence among the men compared to the women. I think that the women could actually use some confidence. But I also thought it was quite ironic that it was Marissa being like, I think that you mean that the men are just not as vulnerable. Like, women are a lot more vulnerable. And I'm like, you haven't shown any vulnerability in your relationship. Granted, neither has Adam. But I just think it's very ironic that you're the one to point that out. For whatever reason, that triggers Mecca's critical thinking, as he stated. And he's like, when I think about when I talk to my guy friends, I don't talk about my feelings. Like, we don't talk about that. We talk about, like, oh, that girl is fine. And I'm not really sure what this had to do with anything. It didn't seem related to much of anything in the conversation. But one thing I did note mentally is that I do believe in being a united front with your partner. And I do see where in this situation, Courtney and Nick were not a united front. She was not united with Nick. When she told that story about the honeymoon and him cuddling her, that was not being a united front. I do think that is a sign of the potential in your relationship. If you're not a united front, I do think that the odds of you lasting are much slimmer than if you are showing up as a team, even if there are issues behind closed doors. Which, Nikki and Shawn, they did not show up together to this dinner. That is also showing not a united front. One thing I did think was interesting is that Michelle asked Courtney, in past relationships, have you kissed on the first date? Like, are you that type of person? And she's like, no, I'm always a slow burn. I don't do stuff like that. I don't think they should have put her on this show. If you haven't even kissed somebody on a first date, if you are that slow of a burn, you should not be on a show like this. This is not meant for people who are that slow of a burn. You immediately got married and you're clearly not in a place or the type of person to be affectionate on a rapid basis, which is what something like this requires. And you don't have to necessarily have sex in order to like fulfill that requirement, but you do need to show more affection than she is capable of showing. Shawn then interjected and was talking to Courtney, and he was like, you're a high performance athlete. You should treat like the intimacy and the affection like a sport, where even on the days that you don't want to go out there and run and train, you know that you have to because there is a deadline at the end of this and you need to perform. And he was like, so you need to just do like the 100 reps of touching him or whatever it takes. That way, at the end of it, it'll feel normal and natural and you can show up that way. And Courtney was like, well, I don't want to do 100 reps just to try and feel comfortable. Like, I want it to be real and be comfortable. And I agree with Courtney. And number two, to that point, Shawn, last episode, wasn't it you and Nikki that were talking about how Nikki's been kissing you because she likes and respects you and she's working on exploring this relationship with you? And didn't you get mad about that? So you're telling Courtney that she should basically do the same thing with Nick, even though Nikki was doing the same thing with you and you got mad about it? Interesting. Very interesting. Belgily and Mecca are up next in the hot seat, and basically they're talking about how everything's going pretty well for them, other than the fact that Mecca told her that she is more attracted to him than he is to her, which all the girls were like, oh no. Which one of them said, oh, that's a good question. And I'm like, that's a horrible question, which Dr. Lisa was like, that's a terrible question. And that was pretty much it as far as their like recap of their relationship is going. Cameron and Michelle talk about how their relationship is going really well. It's very comfortable for them, and they're even talking about what life is going to look like after this and the future moving forward, which is really positive. They do seem really happy together, which maybe is why we don't see much of them, because there's really not much drama or anything interesting happening. But I am happy for them. I do hope it works out. I hope it helps Cameron get out of his head about a family and kids. That way, hopefully, they can compromise on timelines, since Michelle does have a timeline for having kids, and then Cameron is also scared of having kids. So we will see what happens with them in the future. But their segment was truly like 2 minutes long because it was just so quick and happy. Devin and Caitlin are the surprise of the night for me so far, anyway. They are doing so well post their session with Dr. Lisa, and I'm happy for them. This actually might work out for them. Caitlyn is touching him. She's complimenting him. He's complimenting her. They seem very happy. They seem comfortable. They seem in sync with each other. And they do talk about how things were rough at first because Devlin felt like she wasn't giving everything that she could. And so when he started feeling like he wasn't getting what he needed, he went to his past ways of trying to run away because he felt rejected and abandoned. And I think it's important that he does acknowledge that because that is like the first step in trying to fix that. And so now also Caitlyn is very receptive and she pays more attention and is more conscious of how she is around him. That way she can place a hand on him or she can give him a compliment or anything like that. And it seems like they are in a very good spot where they really truly are working through their issues to be in a better place for each other and with each other. They even say that they realize that it's them working together against the issue and they are on the same team. And that's so important, especially this early into a new relationship slash marriage in this case. It is very important to realize you are on the same team. You're not necessarily fighting against each other. You should be trying to reframe it to fight with each other for your common goal. So I did not see Caitlyn and Devin being one of the strongest couples on my bingo card for tonight, but it looks like they are. Felipe and Tori are up, and Felipe says that he really truly cares about Tori. And I do believe him. He seems like a completely different person than the person we got episode 1 before he got married. Even when he got married on the wedding episode, he seems like a completely different person since then, and I will credit that to Tori. And when it gets to Tori, she said she goes into the whole situation about when they got intimate and when she slept on the couch. And she said that I learned that I do self-sabotage and I run away. And so I came to him and I was like, I enjoyed it. I loved it. But I don't think I was truly ready for it. And I just need to slow things down. And so I think it was Mecca. He asked, what are your fears in this relationship? And Felipe says that he's worried about the passion. He's very passionate about her right now, but passion is very important to him. And so he's worried about when it goes away. The passion that you have when you first get with somebody is not the same passion that you will have 5-6 years down the line. It's just not. Things do evolve. Your feelings get stronger or they get weaker. It depends on your relationship. But let's talk about if things are going well. Let's say you're in a very happy relationship. Things will change and not necessarily for the worse. It's just that the passion that you had when you first met, when you first got together, is not going to be the same level of passion that you have 6 years down the line. And that's not a bad thing. It's just a completely different version. There are different things that are going to make you feel passionate about that person. And I think that that's what people mean when they say that marriage takes work, is that it takes work to keep it alive. It takes work to keep dating each other and to not just fall into a very comfortable routine day in, day out, instead of making each other an intentional priority and showing that you do care in a conscious way. And then once you have kids into the factor, things change again because now you have a small human that depends on you, can't do anything for themselves, and that changes your relationship completely. So then that passion is even more of something that you have to work on. You have to work on trying to stay connected. And I wonder if Felipe is using the word passion, but he means connected. Because the way that he's talking, I want to, like, when he says passion, part of me is like, are you talking about attractiveness or are you talking about lust? Are you talking about intimacy? Are you talking about being connected? And the way that he talks about it, I want to believe that he means being connected. That's what, because to me, he and Tori, they do have a lot of like chemistry there. And that chemistry, it will probably fade over time as life happens. But they are also just very connected to each other. And I do believe that if they can maintain that level of like connectivity with each other, that they can make it through the adjustments in passion levels that Felipe is worried about. All I'm going to say when it comes to Nikki and Shawn at this dinner is that it better have been the editing. It better have been the editing that painted her out like that and not the way that conversation actually went down. Because how in the world did Shawn get off from all accountability again? Again, I don't understand. So let's rewind, right? Let's rewind. Man, they got me hot. This show, oh my God. I would really like to leave Shawn alone. I would. But he's not doing himself any favors, okay? So we finally get the Nikki and Shawn. Nikki says, we've been on a journey. Things have not been easy. She's like, you know, Mecca and Beljolie, they were just with us last night. They saw how things went down, how we had an argument at the end of the date. And here comes Mecca saying, you know, well, not to stand up for my fellow mankind. God, what is her name? Oh, but you know, Nikki, like, are you really, truly, and accurately taking responsibility for your part in this? And it's like, wait a second, because why are we letting Shawn get off scot-free? Huh? Like, this isn't making sense to me. So now, because that's the tone he set for this whole conversation, everybody's coming at Nikki. Shawn's just sitting there quietly, letting her be dragged through the coal because nobody else is understanding. And it's like, I don't understand how no one can understand where she's coming from here. Like, I just don't get it. I just don't get it. I don't get it at all. Shawn recounts the argument the night before and says that, you know, he was talking to Mecca and was like, I want to provide a soft life for my person. Like, if she's anxious, I want to take away her anxiety. He was like, and Nikki goes, are you calling me an anxious person? And he's like, how did we get here? How did we get here? Which, he's so dramatic with his storytelling because he really says everything in a way to paint himself in a I didn't do anything wrong light. Even if he is at fault, he will always paint himself in that type of way. And I think that that's the thing that gets Nikki under her skin. Like, gets under Nikki's skin. God, they got me so mad I can't even talk. So that's when Mecca steps in and he's like, well, Nikki, I was there, you know, and not to stand up for my fellow man, but are you really, truly, and accurately taking responsibility for your part in this? And it's just like, wait a second, Mecca, wait, because you were there for one incident, right? Why would you try and place the blame on Nikki in this situation? And Beljolie, why aren't you saying anything? You can even just tell him to stay out of this, you know, because this isn't his fight to fight. And that is the thing that sets the tone for the rest of this conversation. Because now everybody is viewing Nikki through this lens of, oh, you're trying to say that Shawn's the problem, but really it's you. And really it's not. They are both the problem. We can admit that. They are both the problem. She does place a lot of blame on Shawn without taking too much accountability herself. But there is a lot of responsibility that needs to be placed on Shawn. And he takes no accountability. And what does he do? He sits there silently and lets everyone come at her and just lets it happen. Devin starts chiming in with some advice. What does Shawn do? Completely checks out, starts scrolling on his phone. Put your phone away. Put your phone away. And it's just like, you know, and Devin asks her something along the lines of, so when things get heated, like, you know, how come you're not like like, what's your response to that? And she's like, well, I fight fire with fire. And I just match him. And he's like, well, why are we fighting fire with fire? Because, Devin, when you're in a situation where somebody is intentionally trying to rile you up and provoke you and is not taking accountability over and over and over again, some people can only take so much before it's like, fine, I'm going to match your energy because you're coming out of left field. And that's the thing with Shawn is a lot of times he does come out of left field. And so Nikki matching his energy, I completely understand. Is it necessarily the right thing to do to diffuse the situation? No, but I do get it. And I also don't like, I will say this for the entire conversation. It's not just the Nikki and Shawn portion. I don't like that we're having this group session where the other couples are giving other couples advice. You guys are not qualified to give advice to anyone. Like, I want that to be so abundantly clear. None of these couples are qualified to give advice to any other couple. Why are they doing it? Like, I don't get it. That part to me makes no sense. So then Nikki goes into the story of what happened in the airport where Shawn called her crazy, called her aggressive, and she's like, you know, I stood up to walk away to defuse the situation. And he's like, well, now I feel like I'm being threatened. You're being aggressive. And she was like, I'm 5'5", towering over you. And everybody jumped on her talking about that was an out-of-pocket comment. She didn't call him 5'5", everyone. Open your ears. She didn't call him 5'5". She said that she is 5'5". He was sitting down. She stood up. And he said that she was being threatening and aggressive. And she said, so I'm 5'5", standing over you, and that's me being aggressive. The comment is not offensive. My God, everybody was so quick to see her as the villain, and I take major issue with that, and I blame Mecca. And I also blame Shawn. You're sitting there quietly letting them come for her like that. That's not something a real man would do. That's not something a good husband would do either. But you wanted this. You wanted everyone to place the blame on her. You wanted them to come for her. That's exactly why you painted this the way you did. And that's exactly why you sat there silent the way you did. I take major issue with you. I want to leave you alone. I want to stop coming for you in what seems like every single episode, but I can't because you keep doing foolish stuff like this. You keep trying to act like you're this real man and you're better than everyone. You're not. You have a massive ego. I am so irritated by the way that everybody tried to come for her for saying that she is 5'5", as if she was insulting his height. He was sitting down. Like, I don't understand how come nobody else understood that part of the story, but maybe it's because they already had painted her as the villain, so they were only going to see her as the villain, talking about that height comment was so out of pocket. You didn't have to come for his height. And he's sitting there smugly because he's so happy that everybody else is coming for her, because he wants to humble her. And he's hoping that this is going to do it. So at the end of the conversation, Devin's like, well, does Shawn ever speak? And he's like, yes, please. Shawn, you could have spoken up a while ago. You could have jumped in at any given point in time, and you chose not to. You chose not to. Don't sit here and act like you didn't have a chance to speak. You could have. And honestly, to the rest of the table, don't sit there and act like Shawn didn't have a chance to speak. He did, but everything you guys said was directed towards Nikki. And he chose not to say anything. Why? Because he doesn't care if she's painted like the villain as long as he looks good at the end of the day. That is all Shawn cares about. So here's the thing I'm learning about Shawn, right? He is someone who likes to provoke, which we already knew. We have seen him provoke her multiple times. But this conversation on the sidewalk that they are having, where he's like, you know, if they're all my problems, then I'm surprised you haven't found a way to solve them and to fix them. And number one, that's not her job. And she basically said as much. But let's fast forward to the end of this conversation on the sidewalk where he's like, you know, you should just leave. You should just quit. Talking about the marriage because she's like, I just don't know if we can get to a place where like this can be fixed. And that's his response. You want her to quit. Because you want to quit, but you don't want to be the one to do it because it's about appearances for you. You want to make sure that you look good. And it won't look good if you quit, but you want her to quit. So you're doing things and you're poking that bear and you're poking, trying to make it seem like you're the good guy here while you're actively trying to push her to quit this. Why would you say that? Like, why would you look at her dead in her face and be like, well, you should quit? You piss me off. So that was the end of episode 7. And all I gotta say is Nikki and Shawn better have their expert session soon. It better be at the top of episode 8 because why have we let it go this long without a session? We really pulled Devin and Caitlin in and Nick and Courtney in, but we haven't pulled these two in yet? Make it make sense. These two have had more issues than anyone else this season. Granted, Devin and Caitlin have had their issues, but Nikki and Shawn should have been way before Nick and Courtney. And I am hoping to God it was the way it was edited this episode to make Nikki look like a villain. Because if that's really how that went down at the dinner, I'm over it. I am over it. That is not okay. I mean, honestly, Shawn's at fault too. And we already know that I feel like that. But for it to have seriously gone down like that is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Anywho, that was the end of episode 7. I will see you guys very soon for episode 8 and episode 9. Thanks for watching. Bye.